One.
How you doing? Taylor Barton here with the 7-on-7 Association, coming into tournament number 5 on our 7-on-7 Association Circuit Bravery Tour. I am with the man, the myth, the legend, Brandon Huffman from 247 Sports. Huff, how you feeling these days? A lot of travel, a lot of things going on, personal life, business, everything, but
Yeah,
you holding up? You making it?
I am back on the road again this weekend. I'll be in a couple of different states at 4 different events. So never a dull moment, Taylor. Never a dull moment.
Yeah, I still just the travel schedule is pretty amazing. Did you ever see that George Clooney movie?
Oh, up in the air. Yeah.
Yeah, Up in the Air, where he had like the 1,000,000 mile travel, or like the 10 million
About
platinum or whatever. I think you're
about
the
two
real life version.
years, 3 years away from hitting the 1 million mark with Alaska. There's a lot of variety in my early travel back before Alaska started having more national routes. So, I mean, I've spent over 1 million miles in the air, but with Alaska, which I've kind of owned in on in the last 8, 9 years, I'm still a couple of years away from hitting that 1 million mile mark, but I'm getting there.
So
I am
crazy.
75K a year, so I do like the little greeting I get from the flight attendants and the extra little cookie and
I
chocolate
was
bar.
gonna say, when you go onto the plane, do they have like the little note like "Welcome back, Mr.
Oh,
Huffman"?
yeah.
And
One flight attendant remembered me from a flight I'd taken 2 weeks ago when I was down for the Battle at the Beach. And I was on my flight back from a different airport in Southern California. And they're like, oh my gosh, I remember you from 2 weeks ago. I'm like, yep, that was me.
yeah, you're traveling a lot when random flight attendants are remembering and recognizing you. So
Exactly.
Huff, we just finished up our two Cali tournaments, Battle on the Beach in LA and then Battle on the Bay in Northern California. It was awesome. Battle on the Bay having Rebel Squad, basically Kahuku High School, come all the way from Hawaii to our NorCal tournament, win it. MVP was a stud kid with 15 offers. You can go on our social media site and see his interview and clips. Just an absolute stud. You're going to see him balling on Saturdays for sure. He's a next level kid. So it's a lot of fun. We've seen teams coming in from all these different spots. Hawaii, we've had Anchorage, Alaska, Dallas, Texas. We have a team coming from Oklahoma to one of our upcoming tournaments, Utah, Northern Cal, Southern Cal, Idaho, Canada. So a lot of fun seeing all of these different programs now travel into our tournaments wherever they are. Every tournament we have at least one team flying in, which is really cool, from where we began to where we're at. We're jumping back into the Northwest this weekend. Really big tournament number wise, program wise. We got 7 ongoing Saturday, Sunday. We got 5-on-5 going Sunday only. That'll be really fun. We're at Yelm High School. Shout out to Jason Ronquillo, head coach there. Just a coach that absolutely gets it. The development of his kids and teams in the off season, understanding the magnitude of an event like this and hosting it, what it does for the school and the community. So really excited to be going down there. Beautiful facility, 2 full turf lined football fields, a full turf baseball outfield that we're going to use for 5-on-5. Going to be a great vibe, great setup. Food trucks coming in. Going to be a lot of fun. So let's jump into programs and teams in it. Some of the kids, you're the specialist to talk on them. We'll start out with a couple of the kind of usual suspects. Let's talk about Rise. Mike Westbrook took over Rise last year as the head of the program. He's been a coach in this industry for a long time, well respected across the board, and taking over Rise has really kind of infused life into it. Started adjusting things and really elevating it to the next level. You've seen the buzz and excitement of the program growing in numbers and talent. They just won a really big tournament last weekend and knocked off some rival opponents. This is the first tournament we've had some of their teams in. This is the first tournament we have all of their teams in, their top teams. So really excited to see the full strength of the Rise program under the leadership of Mike Westbrook. So Huff, talk a little bit about that program and some of the kids.
Yeah, like you said, they just came off a win. They won passing down tournament in Portland, and a big day from Sione Kaho, who, had the unenviable task. But we talk about this with a lot of guys. I mean, when you took over the quarterback at Washington, Marcus Tuiasosopo left a pretty favorable impression on football fans, was a Heisman finalist, and Sione Kaho as a freshman in high school, not a redshirt freshman, as a regular high school freshman, had to take over for Jabari Johnson, who, was the player of the year before, was off to the SEC. He's now headed to play at Oregon State. And so there was a lot of, excitement and buzz about Sione coming into the season. And, when you have a freshman quarterback and you're taking over the reins like you are for a player like Jabari, that's a big pair of shoes to fill, but it's not for him. His oldest brother, Ale, was a former 5-star player with Alabama, won a national championship at Alabama, then transferred to UCLA, where he is playing. He's got another brother, Vi, who was at San Diego State. So, football runs in that family, and he was the MVP of that tournament. And I saw him earlier this winter, and you could just see the tools are there. He's got a chance to be a really good player, completely different quarterback from Jabari. Jabari is that dual threat guy who's going to beat you with his legs as much as he was going to beat you with his feet, where Sione can run, but he's a pocket guy. And, he's a guy that we're going to be able to see for the next 2-3 years really continue to flourish. And, he may end up being the best quarterback in the state in that 2027 class. So he's kind of the headliner. They got a couple other guys. Josiah Mitchell's a guy that I know that Mike Westbrook's very excited about. He's a freshman at Puyallup High School. And so when you have young talent like that, you and I have talked about that a bunch, TV, where, a lot of these teams that we've seen, or you've seen because I don't watch them, but the 7th and 8th grade teams win. When those guys become high schoolers, they're still winning. And, when you've got a team that's pretty heavy with freshmen, that bodes well for your next couple of years on the circuit.
Yeah, definitely. And again, shout out to Westbrook, just a good dude and really doing things the right way, going in there and has a great facility. So excited to see that and the results they're getting. We knew they'd get them. I think it's a little bit faster than all of us thought, but it's props to him for what he's building, not just with the players, but the staff he's got around him, and obviously the leadership style of himself. So excited to watch them at full strength this weekend and see what they can do. Can they run it back and go back to back, or is somebody else going to take that mantle? Let's talk Big 12. I think for programs, Jamar Howard running Big 12 out of Vancouver, I think in my mind, in the Northwest and maybe even the West Coast right now, Huff, I think they are the one of the bell cow programs, but really the program that has, I would say, if you're comparing it to a stock, whose stock has risen the most, it has been the best investment if you would have gotten their stock a year ago or 2 years ago to what they're doing now, as far as the quality of the program, the talent of individual players, the talent of the team and teams, and then the results they're getting. It is really incredible. I mean, I think their elite team has only lost 1 or 2 games this entire year, has won numerous tournaments. I mean, that's one with, the Brock Harrises and the Pulas and everyone else. And that was kind of a surprise because we thought their senior team was going to be their top team, and they're really loaded too. It reminds me of FSP a couple years ago when they had blue chip and 5-star, and 5-star won some tournaments and ended up maybe being the better of the 2 really good teams. So talk about Jamar, Big 12, what that program's doing and what some of those kids are doing.
Yeah, one of the cool things about it too is the guy you mentioned, Brock Harris. I mean, he's an Oregon native, with a Portland, Beaverton area guy. Now he's in Utah, and by him being in Utah, they've been able to bring a couple of players that are really, I just wrote about them on Wednesday, Jaron and Keenan Pula at Timpview High School in Provo. So when you have players like that you're adding to, but I mean, it is a strong 2026 team between, the Pula twins and Brock Harris coming from Utah. Then you've got obviously Elijah Durr, who's from Mount Tahoma in Tacoma. You've got LaMarcus Bell out of Lake Oswego. A lot of good young talent.
Anzu.
Yeah, Ansu Sano, who's the #1 player in the state of Oregon, out of Lake Ridge High School in Lake Oswego. So some really good young talent, and even their 2025 team has some guys. Austin Simmons gotten a few offers out of Albany. Landon Kelsey is the #2 player in the state of Oregon in 2025 out of Portland Central Catholic, was a big part of their state championship team. Ja'Kai Clardy at defensive back. He plays there across the river at Evergreen High School in Vancouver. So they've got, we used to say this at FSP all the time, and you almost wanted to see like the combination, just like one
hybrid. Yeah.
And, you talked about Rebel Squad earlier. When they would go to the Adidas Nationals, there would be, 15 different teams from the state of Hawaii. But when they would go to Adidas Nationals, there was one team from Hawaii, and it was called Team 808, and you would have the best players from all that team in one. And with teams like Big 12, you wonder how good they would be if they combine all their team into one. But very bright future. Like you said, their 2026 teams won a couple of tournaments, made it to the quarterfinals at a national tournament a couple of weeks ago. So a lot for them to be talking about for not just this cycle, but next cycle as well.
And let's mention, we talked about having the 5-on-5 tournament. We're really growing that branch of our company out, getting more teams. We just did a Northern California tournament with 5-on-5. Big 12 was down there, made the championship game and lost to Elevate, who has won numerous tournaments with that group down there. But Big 12, they had a kid on their team, I believe, from Mississippi with them. So not just in 7-on, but now 5-on, they got kids, local kids, and kids from around the country playing with them. Rich Moreno and Caleb Wells are doing a really good job running that 5-on-5 program of Big 12, where they've got so many really talented linemen, really competitive team. Talk maybe a little bit about that. I'm maybe throwing you on the spot there, but the Big 12 5-on-5 team real quick.
Yeah, I mean, with their 5-on-5 team, a year ago, they had one of the best 5-on-5 teams in the region and really nationally, with 3 guys that ended up going and signing with the University of Oregon. Fox Crater, who was All-American Bowl selection. You had Devin Brooks, who was the number 2 player in the state of Oregon out of Clackamas. You had Trent Ferguson, and he's at Oregon as well. And then you had Carson Osmus, who was at Camas, is at Washington State. So you figured they're going to lose all those guys. And I know a couple of weeks ago, we talked about it. I was kind of blanking. Well, they've got the number 1 lineman in the state of Oregon in 2025, Zach Soskowski, who was the starting left tackle for Central Catholic this year. He's got a number of offers, Big 10 offers, Big 12. I guess we don't have the Pac-12 anymore. Pour one out. Big 10, Big 12, a bunch of offers. And, he's a guy that I think as more schools get out to see him and he gets more film, just even from the 5-on-5 circuit, because he was a little bit on the skinnier side, on the slider side, but that's what coaches love in an offensive tackle. They like the guys that are still a little bit lean and still have room to put on. And, he made a jump from when I saw Central Catholic in October to when I saw him in the state championship game. He made a jump in that time. So now he's got the off-season circuit. You got Luke Webb, who moved to Washington, was playing at J. Sarah down in Southern California in the Trinity League. So he's coming from the best league in high school football in the country, coming up to Washington. So still a lot of talent there, even with losing a number of Power 5 graduates.
The 5-on-5 concept we've talked about is fun, seeing that grow and kind of get consolidated. So it's been fun for us to continue to grow, get more programs and teams coming in, and it's just going to keep growing and growing. And it's fun for the linemen to have something to do. I've told people, for linemen, pre-5-on-5 tournaments, really the only thing they could do together was lift or eat. And now they actually have something where they were always watching the 7-on kids put on the uniforms, go to tournaments, do college visits. Big 12, when they were down in our North Cal tournament last weekend, stopped by and checked out Stanford, checked out UC Davis, and I believe they checked out one other spot too. So they're tying in college visits with the tournament. So I'm happy that the big fellas, that's where games are won. You always hear games are won in the trenches. So to see 5-on-5 growing and the kids having opportunities is pretty cool. Last program to just kind of hit on with some of the kids, another of the heavy hitters, Air, run by Reggie Jones out of Puyallup. They've got their high school team has a lot of dudes every year. You can look on NFL rosters, college rosters, high school rosters all around with kids that have offers. They also have arguably the best middle school team in the country, definitely on the West Coast and Northwest, a group that has not lost this year in a tournament and has won every tournament they've been in. And that's really been the last few years. And Reggie's son, Dash, and that group, Corday Norley and Megatron and all of these really talented players. They've been good in tackle football, 7-on-7, but talk about Air, not so much the youth, but just the high school and the program and some of the kids.
Yeah, they're another team that's pretty young. The kind of the core of their main team, which is Air Black, is 2026 guys. You've got Josiah Denmark, who's got a number of offers, Joey Thomas III, who's got a number of offers, Damari King, Tristan Baker. They've got a 2027 guy that's pretty exciting, Taven Collins out of Puyallup, who's got offers already.
Love him.
But yeah, I mean, he's very bright future there. But Their star is a 2025 four-star Jonathan Epperson out of Auburn Riverside. He was probably their best prospect a year ago as a junior, going into his junior year. Now he's their best prospect as a senior. As I mentioned, he's a four-star, number 2 player in the state of Washington, and very versatile player. He can play running back, he can play linebacker, he can play safety. He's got schools that are kind of recruiting for that back 7 spot, either as a linebacker, as a safety. Very physical kid. Came to the West Coast. I want to say he was from Maryland, and acquitted himself very nicely when he got to Auburn Riverside as a sophomore, and was a big reason why they made the state playoffs for the first time ever this last year. When he came back after a couple of games, he really caught fire at the end of the year and just helped them get to that next level. So he's a guy that's got a number of offers. Actually named a Final Four in December of Washington, Arizona, Oregon, and Utah, and then saw 2 of those 4 schools lose their head coach. One went to Arizona, 2 Washington, but Boise State's in soft for him. Obviously, Stacey Collins has had a presence in the Northwest since he's been, at Penn State, when he was at Boise State previously. So Jonathan Epperson's kind of their guy right now.
So those are a lot of the programs that if you say the names people are familiar with, kind of ring out. Let's talk about some programs that are either making their debut in our circuit this year, first tournament they're playing with us, or just some programs that are new, getting established, maybe less known, and just kind of shouting them out. Less analysis about them, Huff, and more just kind of putting it out there. And this is what I like about this podcast we do every year. It's kind of like our Avery Strong College Showcase. Every year there's the kids coming in, and then there's always kids that stand out that you're like, whoa, who is that? Or I didn't know he was that good or could move like that, or man, maybe got to look into him more, or gonna go take a look at his film. So some of the programs, Seattle United, want to talk about them first. Chase Crappie and Courtney Sanders run that program, and have watched them. They've been really involved in football in this region for a long time, in kind of the youth programs. They've coached at different programs, and a couple years ago started their own program, and have really built it up to the point where now it's multiple teams at multiple age divisions. And they do a really good job. They've gotten a lot more organized. I joke with Chase. He's always on my head, from the sidelines. I said I'm going to send him invoices for my counseling bills in the off season from the heckling. But all jokes aside, Chase and Courtney have done a really good job, and they've helped a lot of kids. And there's a lot of talent in that program. I'm excited to see them where we can give better analysis after this weekend, after seeing them. But to just talk a little bit about them. And then another program to mention, Kamiak High School, making their first appearance. This is their first time in the 7-on-7 world. And we started our Avery Strong High School League in Seattle and down in the Portland, Vancouver area. And Coach Ivan, the head coach at Kamiak, has been instrumental in getting that program developed in the offseason. High school rules, he can't coach them. He's not doing that. They have someone else coordinating it, but they've got a freshman team and 2 high school teams in 7-on-7. And then they also have a high school team in 5-on-5. And it's really cool because we talk about high school coaches that have been fighting the 7-on-7 world. And I can understand parts of it because they feel like they're getting kids poached to other schools, or kids are going in other programs and not running their own system. So it's cool to see more high school programs now running, joining these events where the kids get to run their own system, play with their own teammates, wear their own, gear and apparel. So Kamiak coming in full force this weekend. It's their first tournament. So I'm excited to see how the kids respond to that. They did a high school league, which is vastly different than coming and playing some of these select teams in a tournament. So shout out to Kamiak. Another high school team, Gig Harbor High School. Coach Darren Reeves has had them the last couple years in our circuit. They have a freshman team and a high school team in our 7-on tournament, also a high school team in our 5-on tournament. Now, you talk about a program, they did it last year and they got throttled in most tournaments. And they learned though, and they developed, and they got better, and the kids kept improving. And now this year they've come in, and I'm telling you, they can play with anybody. And I'm watching their kids and how they're just getting better. Receivers getting off presses, quarterback making reads, and they're more competitive. Their top team, Gig Harbor Navy, is in the high school division, and they're gonna, throughout the next couple tournaments, they're gonna have some upsets of some select teams that is going to be highlighting for that program. So I'm excited to see the advancement of that program, another high school program getting in and developing their kids. So shout out to Darren Reeves on that. to flipping out a select team, let's talk about No Limit out of Spokane, Washington. And this is a program run by Marcus White. And they've had No Limit has been going for a couple years. They've got, I think, 3 teams in this tournament, multiple age divisions. And it's been really cool as we've seen core areas grow out in the Northwest. You would see Seattle first and then kind of Portland. And Spokane was an area where I always felt like there could be a lot of programs. There's talent, there's numbers, but you have to have good people on the ground that can help be part of spearheading that growth. And Marcus is one of those guys that has been there and been involved in it. So I'm excited to see them come out here. They're traveling out here. They're going to do multiple of our tournaments. This is the first one. So excited to see them. From a non-analysis standpoint, just an overall like kind of bird's eye, talk a little bit about the importance or what you're seeing of the growth of different areas, not, how it's kind of gone in the Northwest, Seattle, Portland. You're seeing Spokane and Boise really emerge with more programs and talent. And as somebody at 247 who is in charge of seeing different recruits and covering different areas, how does it help us with programs and areas getting established and having kids and getting to different events where you guys are able to have access to them?
The phrase that always comes to mind, your best ability is availability. And when you make yourself available, when you make yourself seen, you only enhance your product. I remember, TB, the first few years of the circuit, when you're going into more obscure towns, and you did a tournament in Bellingham, and yes, I can call Bellingham obscure, but that's what I did. And you didn't have a lot of teams, and you maybe had one team for a whole entire region. Well, now you're having multiple teams for one region instead of one team for multiple regions, and I think that's what you want. That's coinciding with the growth in 7-on-7 in the Northwest, and it's multiple teams in the eastern part of the state, multiple teams in the middle part of the state, multiple teams in the southwest part of the state of Washington. Then you go into Oregon, you've got teams from Hermiston Elite. I mean, Central Oregon has teams. There's the other team that came to the Battle of Seattle last year, another kind of an Eastern Oregon team. You got teams down in the southern part of the state, in the Portland area, the Vancouver area. So you're seeing more opportunities. And from that, I mean, shoot, the team that won the Memorial Day weekend, the Battle in Seattle was the FCA team. It was kind of one of their first tournaments they played. And so you're seeing more teams, more options, and more teams are emerging. Jamar, I'll be the first one to tell you, 4 years ago, they were kind of fodder to some of those teams. Now they're beating those teams 4 years later. And as you get your feet under you as a program, it allows you to be competitive in the tournaments. But more importantly, it gets your guys seen. And now they're playing in the feature games. Now they're playing, later in the day on Sunday into the championship round, excuse me, when the trophies are won. And all it takes is one guy to have one good weekend, and now all of a sudden he's a name. He's getting tweeted about, he's getting written about, and now schools are following up on him. That's why you do it. Because at the end of the day, coaches, right? It's about the kids and their development. It's not about the trophies. It's not about your ego. No matter how many of the coaches, and I'm not saying all of them, but how many of the coaches make it about their ego, it really is about player development, right? And at least giving these guys an opportunity to get exposure. And if that's what the message is, and I think then, it's being heard loud and clear.
Love it. I love it. To kind of wrap this out with a couple programs that are either making their debut in our circuit this tournament, or to just kind of push the narrative of some of the high schools we're talking about. We got EBK Avengers. So this is a tournament hosted at Yelm High School, but EBK Avengers is a high school division team from Yelm. Don't know anything about them. And that's what I love about this, to go with what you're saying. Cool, let's get teams here that we don't know anything about, haven't seen, and let's see what they're about. And let's get to know who's running it and the kids in it and how they move and how they get down. And hopefully they become a bigger part of the circuit. So I'm excited to see EBK Avengers out of Yelm. We talked about the high school narrative. We've got Woodland High School. Sean McDonald's the head coach down there. Same thing, supportive. He has someone coordinating it for him, so it's all above board. But getting their kids where they're doing our Avery Strong High School League down in the Vancouver area. We did that a few weeks ago. Now they're coming up and doing this tournament where they get to get in and compete against some select teams, some other high school teams. get that tournament feel. Excited to see the kids out of a small town in Woodland. When people go, oh, we're a small town, they want this and that. It's like Woodland High School. Woodland High School, go look it up on a map. Woodland High School is coming to this. So if they can get a program going and have their kids traveling and doing it, miss me with the, well, we can't do it, it's not supportive. Go make it happen, like Woodland High School is. So shout out to Coach McDonald down there. The Jags, which is Emerald Ridge High School, and I mentioned it's Jake Skockle. Jake Skockle, one of my favorite kids to ever come through in any of our training stuff as a QB, and through the 7-on circuit, played on different programs. Awesome. His dad was a head coach there. Mom was awesome. Just great family. He signed with Eastern Washington and is a scholarship Division I quarterback. But he's messaging me. He's not even playing, but he's helping coordinate the team for the next crop of kids. And that tells you this is going to be a kid that is going to go play in college and hopefully go play pro after that. But if not, this is going to be a coach, and he's going to be one of those names that
future head coach.
100%. It's a name. It's my buddy was Shane Waldron, who I grew up with and was the coordinator for the Seahawks, and now I believe is with the Bears. But same kind of just mindset, smart, just respected. So excited to see the Jags in here. Couple other programs to mention. We got Next Level Academy out of Olympia, run by Sean Ridley. Sean has been involved in the 7-on world for a lot of years, has kind of traveled around and now coming back and has his program going. Haven't seen them, so excited to see them and what they're about. We've got Grind City. So this is a team that won a couple tournaments last year, had a couple teams, different divisions, a Central Washington area team, Moses Lake. And they have a lot of talent and they just play really well. They're one of those teams where you go, man, they're efficient. They avoid 3rd and long. They don't beat themselves. If you're going to beat them, you got to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves. So I'm excited to see Grind City. And again, Moses Lake. So miss me with, well, we're in an area where you can't do this. We've got Woodland High School and we've got a team coming from Moses Lake. So I don't want to hear small town, can't do this, can't do that. Another team that's making their first appearance in any tournament ever with us is Unlimited Athletics out of Bremerton, and they're a freshman division team. And I just mentioned them because it's cool to see people starting up new programs, getting signed up, coming and competing, and we'll see what they're about. We'll see how they move, how they get down, what they look like, how they interact with us and on the scene. Some people get intimidated, some come in and learn and improve. So I'm excited to see them. And I wanted to finish up with a kind of special program. We don't talk a lot about youth programs. You had AIR. We mentioned Reggie Jones's program because they're national and they've got kids with autism. I mean, it's different, but one of the OGs in this industry, and we talk about a liked and respected person. We've got WAR, and they've got a middle school team, and it's run by Rob Mason. And Rob, you hear that name and you know it, and he's just liked, respected. And this is a program, he's had his sons, Trey and Juice, that came through, were great receivers, went on and scholarship to Eastern Washington and Idaho State, and just great family. And Rob has been involved in all these different events and programs and teams, but running WAR, and they've had so many good kids come through that program. They kind of rekindled it this year. This is their first tournament they're coming. Huff, talk just real quickly about Rob Mason and some of the kids that have come through WAR.
Yeah, I'll close it with this. Rob is an OG in the game. Going back to his son Trey playing on the circuit. Juice was one of the most electric players, won a number of MVPs on the circuit. And that team that Juice was a part of that won the state championship at GK in 2021, a lot of those guys were playing youth ball together. Joshua Wood, the state player of the year that year, Andrew Savai and I, who had gone to Florida. And, Rob would bust out these pictures of them. I'm totally blanking on the kid's name. Went to Puyallup High School, then went to Idaho, was a receiver who went to Idaho. And you see these pictures of these guys when they're in 6th grade, 7th grade, winning tournaments. I remember giving Juice a trophy when he was a middle schooler. And, then those guys were off to college and they're playing in college. And, they were kind of one of that original South King County or Pierce County team with a lot of guys that went on to have success. And so it's good to see them back in the game. And, we'll see what those pictures look like in 5 years from now.
Awesome. Well, Huff, thanks for your time. Capital City Showdown coming up this weekend. Excited to see everyone out there. Going to be a great vibe. We'll see you guys this weekend.